from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about my son Dexter. We suspected Dexter may be autistic. We had worries from him being quite young, and I'm just going to give a little introduction to what prompted us to have those thoughts, what made us think Dexter might be a little bit different in some ways. Dexter was born in November 2015. We have made a video on his birth story, which I don't know why, but if you want to go and watch it, I will link it down below. We've uploaded it onto our other channel. He hit his early milestones on time, so he smiled early, actually. He smiled very, very early on. He had very strong neck muscles. He could hold his head up almost from birth. He crawled at 6 months. He was like an engaging, happy little baby. The first time I saw a difference in Dexter was when Dexter was 12 months, and my friend brought her little boy round who was 8 weeks younger, I think. I remember he was pointing at things, and I remember thinking, oh wow, that's really advanced. Her little boy was pointing at things, and my little boy didn't point at things. But I did not think that my child was behind, because I wasn't aware of what was supposed to happen when. I just thought her boy was advanced. And we took Dexter to, it was like a music, sensory, you know, like the baby toddler groups. There was just stuff to entertain babies. There were plenty of babies around 12 months, which was Dexter's age at the time. All the children were very engaged in the music and what was happening, and they were looking around, and they were, you know, quite a few of them were staying by their parents for reassurance, and because it was new. And I just remember Dexter spent the whole time chasing these light up balls all around the room. I thought it was quite funny at the time, but that was the first thing that got me thinking, should he be more engaged than he is in the things that are around him? Anyway, we got to about 13, 14 months, and my mom kept saying to me, is he starting to speak yet? Is he starting to, you know, attempt any words or say mama, dada, anything like that? Now again, I did not know when children were supposed to start speaking. I was a first-time mum with very little experience of children, and so I googled it. Oh man, I googled it. And the Dr. Google said, do not worry if your child is not speaking. Do not worry if your child is not trying to form words at this age. As long as they are pointing things out of interest, responding to their name, and blah blah blah, all these things that Dexter wasn't doing. And I just thought, oh wow, we have a problem. And the more I googled, the more I fell down the autism rabbit hole. At this point, we also noticed a bit of what I think now is a regression. The regression wasn't in terms of speech, because he never spoke. It was more in terms of interaction, in terms of eye contact and response to people. And the thing is, you have this perfect child, this perfect little baby, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, it's like someone's telling you there's something wrong with them. You suddenly have a lot of questions about the future that you didn't have before, about like why this happened, and you know, everything, all sorts goes through your head. Was it your fault? Are they going to be like, what's going to happen to them? And on top of that, I was pregnant with my second son by that point, so a whole lot of other emotions ran alongside that too. So we got in contact with our health visitor, and our health visitor, as were a lot of professionals at this point, were very much like, you know, he's a young child, he's only 13, 14, 15 months even, people were saying this. It was very much a case at that point at watch and wait to see what happened. And we did see progression, you know, he didn't stay where he was, he did progress in various areas, but there was still something quite obviously different. So the health visitor came round when he was around 18 months, and I was saying at this point, you know, we need to see a specialist at this point, we need to take this further. We need help for him. So the health visitor came round, and she filled out this big long form. She used that to obtain a referral to a paediatrician, a speech and language therapist, and the additional needs nursing team. But at this point, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the red flags that we saw in Dexter and the things that prompted that referral. Red flag number one was very poor eye contact. Now, I'm not saying he had no eye contact when you did something interesting. For example, he loves music, so when you would sing to him, he would stare at you. He would look you in the eye for a long period of time. But the majority of the time, he just seemed to ignore you. And I guess that was red flag number two. It goes kind of hand in hand with the poor eye contact, was lack of response. So at 19 months, Dexter did not respond to his name at all. He would respond to certain verbal cues, like if you said, "What's this, Dexter?" he would associate that with, oh, you've got something that he might want, and he would turn around and look then. So I knew it wasn't his hearing. We did go for a hearing test anyway, and his hearing came back fine. It was just that response, almost like he didn't have the motivation to turn around to see what you were possibly calling him for. He wouldn't point things out of interest to show us. He wouldn't bring us things to engage in play with him. He didn't acknowledge strangers, really. So if somebody new walked in the room, a lot of toddlers will look up, who's this, or maybe get a bit wary. Dexter, it's like he didn't even notice that people were in the room. And when I'm saying all this about these red flags, they didn't happen every single time, but this is what happened most of the time. So most of the time he didn't give eye contact, most of the time he didn't respond to strangers. He did not mimic what we did or said. So you could do something, and a lot of toddlers, babies even, will try and copy you. Dexter did not do that. Dexter would not copy what you did. So when I say Dexter didn't speak, he wasn't a silent child by any stretch of the imagination. He was a very noisy child, actually. But his babbling, I'll try to find a video for it, but his babbling did not sound like you would expect. It wasn't typical, like ma 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 ba 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 ba. Even like, I know that's typical for a younger child, but he wasn't even at that point yet. It seemed to be just mainly vowel sounds that he was making, and non-speech sounds like rolling his tongue and humming and squealing and that kind of thing. Okay, so I think this was the biggest one for me, and that was no gesturing, really. So he did not point at if he wanted something, he had no way of telling you he wanted it. He wouldn't point to it. He wouldn't lead you to the direction of it. It didn't like result in meltdowns or anything. He was a very, very placid child. He was very happy child. He didn't seem to want much. He didn't wave. He never waved. He did clap his hands when he was young, but he never waved. Although I will say, at 19 months, the first little bits of communication had started to happen. He would bring us things to, so he would like bring us his juice cup to if he wanted more juice, or if he wanted something opening, he would bring it to us. He would not make eye contact with us. He would like try to put our hand on it. Alongside of this, he did not follow a point. If you pointed to something and went, Dexter, look over there, he wouldn't. So he was fine with routine, he was fine with new places. In fact, he loved new places, he loved exploring. He was fine with crowds and bright lights and loud noises. But from around about 9 months old, he loved spinning things. So he loved spinning wheels especially. He would spin things that weren't supposed to spin. Like, he would spin knives and forks on the floor, he would spin his dummy on the floor, he would turn a car upside down and spin it round on the floor, and at the same time he would get very, very close to it to watch it spin. Like, he loved that visual input. So at 19 months, Dexter had very, very almost non-existent pretend play. If you gave him a doll, he wouldn't put it to bed or feed it or anything like that. He never held a telephone up to his ear to, pretend to talk on the phone. He'd never done anything like that. His play was all quite literal. Oh, the one thing he did do, although he would spin the wheels of toys, he would also wheel them along, like how you would expect a child to play with a toy. So he would do that as well. He would wheel them along and then he would pick them up and spin the wheel. He covered his ears if he was... This was not in response to noise. He wasn't... He definitely wasn't blocking out sound. It was like when he was anxious or excited. It definitely wasn't noise. We could take him to the cinema. He loved fireworks. It wasn't noise. It was, oh my goodness, I'm not sure about this situation. I'm going to cover my ears. Hyperactivity. He was very, very, very hyperactive. He loved running all the time. The second he could run, he ran everywhere. Anytime, without any regard for where we were, he would just run. When he was excited, he would flap his hands in excitement, and not to communicate anything, not to show to anybody else he was excited, but if it was particularly the TV, if he loved the TV, anything on TV, he would flap his hands and get excited. I'm just going to go and talk a little bit about the things that maybe were positives for Dexter at the time, at 19 months, and things that were promising, things that maybe confused me, thinking, but this doesn't fit with an autism diagnosis, or that doesn't fit with an autism diagnosis. So first of all, motor skills. I know a lot of children with autism as toddlers have motor delays or problems with balance, things like that. Dexter had excellent motor skills. He had excellent balance. He could run up and down hills, no problem. He didn't fall over very much. He was very, very, very affectionate. He loved cuddles. He loved kisses. He loved his mummy. He needed us to lie with him to get him to sleep because he wanted that comfort. And I'm not joking, this is probably what got me through that time, knowing that whatever was going on, I still had a little boy who loved his mummy. He had no problem with messy play. He liked sand and water and gloop and mud, and he loved all that stuff. There were no sensitivities there. He would interact with us if we played hide and seek with him. He loved that. He would come and seek us out and giggle and then run off and get us to chase him. You could engage with him in chase games, in back and forth chase games. So aside from the wheel spinning, we had no issues or worries about the way he played. He played with a wide variety of toys, the way they were supposed to be played with, for an appropriate length of time for his age. So I spoke before about how Dexter did not point to what he wanted. He did not point to communicate. However, at this point, he had just started pointing to pictures in books. He wouldn't couple it with eye contact with us, but he would point to things, and now looking back at it, he was definitely interested in the name of everything. He wanted to know the name of everything. If you asked him to point to something, he wouldn't. He loved, I mentioned this before, but he loved music. If there was a theme tune on, even on an advert or on anything on the TV, he would stop what he was doing and like spin round and look at it. He's always been so motivated by music, loves it. It was a great engagement tool for us. It was a great way to, you know, get his attention, to teach him things. And he would perform the actions to different nursery rhymes. So he would do like, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. He would do wind the bobbin up. He would do those actions if he was in the mood. He would do those actions to the nursery rhymes. He would try sometimes to do a couple of animal noises. He would like roar for a lion. He would do bar for a sheep, I think. It didn't always sound very much like it was supposed to, but it was an attempt. If you got him, like if you could get through to him and get him to listen, he would follow some instructions. So he demonstrated that he did have some understanding. It was difficult to know what he understood because it was difficult to get him to respond and engage with you in the first place. So that was Dexter at 19 months. Dexter at this current moment in time is 2 years and 3 months. Yes, yeah, 27 months he is. I'm going to do an update video now. I'm going to film an update video so you can see how far we've come, where we are. The one thing I will say is, at this moment in time, Dexter has not been diagnosed with anything. He does not have a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. If you want to follow our journey, then please feel free to subscribe to this channel. I will be documenting the highs and lows of this journey. There are many of each. And I would love to connect with other people in the same situation or other people that have been through it, because it is hard, man. This is the most emotionally difficult thing I have ever been through. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.